Hi everybody, it's Takara McCoy and I am back just hanging out again with some everyday people trying to get us all to get to know one another and hear our stories, which are just so amazing and interesting. So today I am here with my good friend, Miss Priscilla Rodriguez.
Hi.
Say hey to everybody.
Hi.
So Priscilla, I met about, about 4 or 5 years ago?
About 4.
4 years ago, we met in church, and then essentially what happened is our daughters became besties. So, and our sons hang out together too. So it's just been really great. We have kids around the same age. And Happy Mother's Day, by the way.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. So, I just wanted to share with people her story because I mean she's shared some really awesome things with me. But before we talk about your life, okay, you tell me, what do you have in that little dish there?
So I have here homemade sofrito, which I know you love.
I do love sofrito. Tell everybody what it is.
This is like one of the main things that we have in every Puerto Rican kitchen. Like it's so popular. Like if you don't have these in your kitchen, like are you even Puerto Rican?
Okay.
Or I mean the Dominicans also use it in other countries too, but this is like our one of the main things that we have in our kitchen. So it's just a blend of different like fresh vegetables like cilantro, onions, peppers, fresh garlic. Everything is fresh. So you can I keep it here in like a little glass jar, and then you can use it for like literally everything.
Everything,
so,
right?
So
it's so flavorful.
Yep.
It adds such a delicious flavor. So, and it's funny that you mentioned, you know, the fact that you are Puerto Rican. Clearly, a proud Puerto Rican. I have not met one who is not proud, but that's awesome. So, basically, you know, that I want everybody to know that you're a cook.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
I love cooking.
You love cooking, and you do, and you actually have a business cooking?
Well, not really.
Oh.
People want me to have a business, but it's just too much right now.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
I love it.
She does love it. And you have had one, like a little bit of something where people would pay for food and
Yeah, I
like
did have it for a while, but then I stopped it.
Yeah, because it's a lot. Businesses are a lot of work. So anyway, so that's great to know. So back to this that heritage of yours, the Puerto Rican, you know, experience, which leads me to believe that at some point, were you born in Puerto Rico? Let's tell me how you grew up.
Yes, I was born in Puerto Rico. I was born and raised. And then I moved here to the United States when I was 15 years old.
Okay. So what was that like?
Puerto Rico?
Well, I mean, coming to the United States after being in Puerto Rico
It was
for so long.
exciting.
Okay.
It was something different. We came here because my grandma was sick.
Okay.
So, and then all of my sisters and me, we were going to change schools anyway. So my mom said that's the perfect year to move. So we moved.
And where did you move to?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
I mean, it was exciting, but very hard at the same time.
Okay.
Because
so what was hard?
We didn't know English.
Okay.
So, and then especially the school that I went to, it's an art school. So it wasn't just a regular school. So there was nobody that spoke Spanish.
Wow.
Then I didn't know English. So it was hard to communicate, but I just learned English. I don't even remember how I learned it, but I know I learned. So
Awesome. Well, I mean, so then you came around 15. Did you come with your father or your mother? Who did
no,
you come
with my mom and my 2 sisters.
With your mom and your 2 sisters. Okay. So you're coming here, you're learning English, and you are growing up basically now as a teenager in this American culture. So what were your experiences like? What were some kind of highlight moments of that period of your life?
From coming here?
Yeah, when you came here and just kind of like what, 15, how old are we when we're 15? How old are we? I mean, I'm sorry.
The grade?
What grade, yeah.
I was going to 10th grade.
10th grade,
Yep.
Oh, so that's a tough time.
Yeah.
So that's a tough time. So tell me what happened on your journey at that time. What were you like? What was life like?
Well, I've always been very shy, so extremely shy.
Okay.
So, but at the same time, at that time I felt like the popular girl when I came to that school because,
Really?
like the Hispanic girl, and I felt like the popular girl every time I would walk in the morning. So it was pretty interesting.
Okay.
And I made friends very fast just because I think they saw someone from another country and so different in the culture that they got so excited. So I made friends like
No.
literally from the first day.
No, that's really interesting because a lot of times people think when people come from another culture, they're going to be ostracized, and we hear those kind of stories where they're bullied. Not your experience.
Nope.
Everyone loved you.
Yep.
Why do I see that? Why can I understand that? Because you're amazing. So, that's really great. Then that's cool. So then, what happens? And I mean, I know that you have 4 kids, 4 beautiful children who you love very much. So I'm really glad to be interviewing you around Mother's Day because you are one of the women that I know that just really has put your children first in your life, and you really value them. But I know you're a single mom too, and I think that's important to talk about. So let's talk about. Obviously, you were here. You had a good high school track. So, what kind of got you? When did you get in a relationship? So when do we start changing direction there?
So I lived in Jacksonville for 6 months. Then we moved to Orlando because there's more of a Spanish community. It was gonna be easier. So we moved to Orlando. We lived with my uncle and my aunt for about 3 months.
Okay.
And then my mom got the apartment. We moved, and then of course I changed schools.
Okay.
So Jacksonville from Orlando is about 2 hours. So in there, it was literally like completely different. Again, the high school.
Oh, okay.
Because there was like 60% of Hispanics in there.
Okay, so you weren't special anymore.
Oh, no. I still was a little bit because I was still new.
Uh-huh.
And I made friends literally the same thing, the same day.
Really?
But this time, people spoke Spanish.
Right.
And a lot of them were from Puerto Rico as well. So I felt like, I'm home, but I'm not.
Okay.
So it felt really nice. And then in there, I met my oldest daughter's father.
Okay.
I was 16. He was 16 as well.
Okay.
Almost 17.
Okay.
So, yeah, we got into like a relationship. He's actually Cuban.
Oh, okay.
He's Cuban. And then from there, a couple months later, I found out I'm pregnant with Genesis.
Okay.
So I was still in high school.
Okay, so you were still in high school.
Yeah.
So, I know you got married at some point. Was he the one that you married?
No.
Okay.
After we broke up when I was pregnant.
How did he handle that? How did you go through that?
Well, he 17. He was still in the party mentality and, girls, things like that. He left school and he was just working and like with that stuff.
Okay.
So,
were you guys trying to be together or?
Well, I left him because of the way he was. He was just not good. And everybody told me, but I'm like...
But you didn't listen.
I didn't listen.
Ah, it's a lesson, ladies.
Yeah.
Don't always listen.
So, but then even after she was born, I called him to see the baby and everything, and he just didn't want to.
Okay.
He basically has been always out of the picture.
Gotcha. Now, let me ask, though, did you feel at that point, at that age... did you feel like you needed to exercise any options not to have that child?
My first thought was like, my mom is gonna kill me. I need to get rid of this baby. But then, almost immediately, I was like, no.
Okay.
I'm not. I was just more scared on how am I going to tell my mom about the news. But no.
Okay.
No. Even though my mom was like, I don't think she was upset. She was disappointed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But then he left, I left him, and then my mom always helped me from the very beginning.
So your mom was willing to help right from day one?
Yeah.
There you go. Shout out to
yes.
P-Rod's mom.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you for help from day one. That's really important at that time to have a support system, so that's good. So, okay, so that didn't work out, and then, so how's your life at that point? How old are you? What's going on now? What's
so
happening?
I had her at 17, but since I was 16, actually, I started working.
Okay.
I moved to Orlando in January. By March, 2 months later, I was already working. My very first job at a Marriott hotel. So even throughout my entire pregnancy, I worked.
Wow.
So I was going to high school, working the days that I didn't go to school, like on the weekends, until I had her. I had my little pregnancy break, and then I went back to work. So I've been working since I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's great.
Yep.
Okay, so now, after that, what happens next? Are we going into the marriage now? Like
No,
how?
I meet my ex-husband
Okay.
at that time in Orlando.
Okay.
So I met him, And then we started the relationship pretty fast, just a couple months after we met. And then, like, my mom, she didn't agree too much with him.
Oh, really? She was not into
Right.
him? Okay.
So I got upset one day. I don't know what happened. And I said, that's it. I went home to the apartment. I grabbed all my stuff, packed everything, put it in his car. He called his mom, and we got into an Amtrak train from Orlando, moved to New York.
Ooh.
So it took us about 2-3 days between leaving home. We spent the night at somebody's couch. I don't even know who it was. I was kind of like reckless. That was like my most reckless thing I've ever done, apart from being pregnant at that age.
No. So that's good to know.
And I mean, the fact that was the first time I actually saw my mom cry.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So, oh my gosh.
When you left?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Heartbreaking for her?
And heartbreaking for me because I was breaking my mom's heart, but I was so mad.
Really?
I was so upset. I just took my things and I'm out of here.
Oh, so now we're going into part 2, which is the marriage. All right?
So I moved to New York. Literally, we started from scratch.
Okay.
From zero. I had a car full of stuff with my daughter, no job, nothing. We're literally like rock bottom.
Okay. Hold that thought. Yes. So I just wanted to make sure that I want to talk more about what happens in this part of your life, because your marriage really opened the door for you to mature into some perspectives that I think as a single mom and a woman are important. And I want to highlight those because I think you have some really awesome, morsels of wisdom that I enjoyed listening to. So first, let's talk about, what would you label your marriage as? What would you say? If you could describe it in one word, what would you say that a whole experience was?
In one word.
All right, fine. More words. Just brief, what do you think you could say that your marriage was like?
Like pressured.
A lot of pressure. You found the marriage to be a lot of pressure.
Pressured, abusive.
I
was not happy at all.
Right. So there were things going on that were difficult.
Yeah.
Trying. When you're talking about, you mentioned abusive, sometimes that definitely brings us to the concept of control.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Toxic.
Lots of control needed. Now, we can probably attribute that to the fact that you were young, both of you.
I was 19 at that point.
Okay,
when
how
I got
old was
married.
your husband? Okay, how old was your husband?
22.
Okay, so, we're talking young. Also, your mom was a single mom?
Yeah.
Okay, and did he come from 2-parent home?
His dad passed when he was very young. So
Okay.
he was basically
Single mom.
And
So-
then his mom she had him like at almost 50.
Oh, and she was a little bit
And
older mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the only child.
Okay, so all of those variables matter because you're young already, and there are some couples and people I know. In fact, I have friends who got married young, but when you have sort of those intact connections and relationships, they can make weathering the dynamics of a relationship a lot easier when that's there.
Right.
But without either of you having that, I'm sure that complicated things. And then you had your other 2 beautiful children.
Yes, I did.
Yes, so and even in that, so in those situations, what's that like with the kids? Is it something that you welcome? I mean, how did you see that situation about having children in this dynamic?
So with Jafet, which is my son, my second one, I actually find out I was pregnant after I moved to New York. So I think I was already pregnant when I came from Florida.
Okay.
So that was gonna be his first child.
Okay.
So of course he's happy, he's excited. And I was with him. We were good at that time. We were happy, and so I was happy.
Okay, so then like how did things progress
With
like?
the news. Well, after that, because I got married after I had my son,
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of pressure from his family.
Okay.
Way too much. We had a lot of pressure, like
What was the pressure about?
getting married.
Okay.
Like we have to get married because you're gonna go to hell and all this stuff.
Okay. And at that time, you were not in church.
No, not
You
at all.
didn't know anything about.
None of us.
Nobody was. Okay, so you didn't even really know God or.
Like
all
I knew
that.
God with the Catholic Church. That's how I grew up.
Right.
But
no
not
personal
like, no.
dynamic. Just
No.
okay. So then there's the pressure, the religious pressure to do
Right.
something. Okay. So and how did he take that? He was also feeling like that was what he had.
Well,
to
he
do.
was like excited. He was
okay.
happy.
So he was on board.
But I was the one that I was like, at some like it almost felt like they mentioned it so much they convinced me,
Okay.
and they convinced me like for me to be happy with that. So I just like when I said yes, I'll do it. I was like kind of happy for that moment. Like,
Okay.
oh, I'm gonna get married, but then inside, really,
Something was off.
right.
Okay.
So
So you ended up getting married. You had the pressure from the family. Did you feel you had support from the family after you got married to helping you guys navigate relationship problems? No. So that's tricky sometimes, and I understand that too. Sometimes when we come from people who mean well, and they really like to give you the framework that you should try to operate under. But it's one thing to give me a architectural blueprint, and it's another to help me build the house.
Yep.
So I can see how that would have been, very challenging. So then you have your so when does the relationship start to turn, and then you have your next child? Like what move me into the next season?
So after I had my son, we moved to our first apartment. So that in there we're already by ourselves, and he just starts getting very controlling, like to the point where they didn't work. We decided I was gonna be a stay-home mom, just because the kids were small and it was gonna be too much. And I didn't have any friends whatsoever. Like he will check everything. He erased all of my contacts from my friends from all the way from Puerto Rico, my childhood friends.
Why?
Especially the boys, because they were guys.
Okay. He was just a little maybe jealous, worried about that.
But everything, like I had no contact with nobody.
Okay.
And like emails, everything. He had to link it to his phone so he can monitor everything. Every phone call from my family.
Really?
Either speakerphone or after I talk to them, like, what do you talk about? What were you talking about?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. How do you get out of that?
It took me 5 years.
Really, 5 years?
That's why I always say I suffered in silence for 5 years until I couldn't take it anymore.
Oh my gosh. So what happens? Like you wake up one day and you go, I'm done.
I'm not. And I talked to his family, the people that actually like put the pressure the most about getting married.
Right.
I remember one time he flipped very, very bad, very bad. And I called her. I'm like, I ran to the neighbors to call the police, but he grabbed me before I got to the neighbors. He just completely destroyed my phone. I was able to call later the aunt, like, someone please pick him up, because he was very going crazy. And she just basically said, it's okay, husbands, they can destroy things when they get upset, or she basically defended the way he acted towards me. And
so the support system becomes for the bad behavior rather than you.
Right. So at that point, I'm like, I have no family whatsoever. They became my family.
Right.
And at the moment that I really needed them, they were not there.
Wow.
So they were pretty much, I guess I felt like they were applauding whatever.
Right.
It was
Supportive.
good. So from there, I never opened my mouth again. And I didn't say anything. I just suffered by myself.
And then what changed? Because obviously you got out of that thing. So what happened?
So it continued getting worse. And then I remember my mom moved to New York.
Oh, okay.
She lived here.
So Mama Bear gets involved. I love it.
So she moved to New York for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And she was staying at my house in the meantime one night, and he did something, and my mom, he didn't think my mom saw him, but the way he was acting and the thing he was doing, my mom said, you are definitely in an abusive marriage. And
that's what she told you.
yes,
not in front of him.
No, but
Right?
of course she has been a victim, so she knows.
So she's been there too. Wow.
So she's like, you need to get out while you can.
Really?
So after I had that talk with her, it's funny because when she came, I hadn't seen her since I moved.
Wow.
And of course we weren't talking to each other. And then
Really?
our relationship became stronger after I called her like, Mom, I'm sorry for everything. And then we kept talking, and our relationship just
Oh, that's awesome.
became amazing. So I'm sitting, I remember so much. We were buying some furniture. I was sitting with her at a Subway, and I just start crying. She's like, what's going on? And then I tell her everything that I've been going through with the years.
Wow.
And then I guess her being here made me feel a little bit safer.
Yes, of course.
So
Wow.
I
That's
remember I woke up and I told him, I woke up very early in the morning. I told him I have an appointment. And I didn't. I took all the kids, like around 7 or 8 in the morning, took all the kids, put them in the car, and drove straight to the police station. And then I told them everything that I have been going through, and they immediately, while they were sending me to family court, they told me, you're gonna go to the court right now. Don't go to your house, go straight to the court. The judge is gonna be waiting for you. So while they were taking my statements, another police was calling the judge, and at the same time the police was on the way to the house, and they arrested him. They took him out of the house. So they gave me the order of protection for a year.
Right.
And then that's how I got out.
Wow. And that was it. So you were local.
Mhm.
So at some point here, your life is going to start changing into a different trajectory, because you started to encounter faith in a real way. So when does that happen? Is that around this time after you leave him, or is it during then? When did
faith?
that? Yeah, when did that walk start?
Well, I have always, even though I didn't have a relationship like I have now with God,
Right.
I've always believed in prayer.
Right.
And I've always had faith. I've
Okay.
always been a woman of faith.
Wow.
So, and I knew there's a God.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I had no idea. But I know I got out of that, and remember, I wasn't working at all.
Okay.
He was the only income. It was
Wow.
only one car. It was his car. So I'm here, single mom, completely by myself with no job, no money, nothing.
So you started praying.
And yes.
Wow.
And then
To a God you don't even know.
God started blessing me like
Wow.
immediately. And I remember I called my sister because I knew like divorce was a sin,
Right.
even though I didn't have that, but I knew it.
Okay.
And I called my sister crying. I'm like, I don't want God to condemn me. I know this is wrong, but I cannot take it anymore. And then I talked to her, and she talked to me and calmed me down, and I felt a little bit better. And she's like, God doesn't want you to suffer. He doesn't want you to suffer. And then she told me other stuff, and I was able to get out of that abusive relationship.
Right, but then, so you were saying that you had begun to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did you, because we met in church.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, the good Lord led you into an arena that I'm familiar with, which is definitely that spiritual journey and the body of Christ.
Right.
So how did that happen?
So after that happens, my divorce and everything, I meet, after a while, I meet my youngest daughter, father.
Okay.
I started a relationship with him. Super long story short. After I had her,
Okay.
I've never had any problems health-wise. Never. So, but after I had her, I had to be hospitalized after I had a surgery that I had to not have any more kids.
Okay.
And then they had to leave me at the hospital because I have very high blood pressure.
Okay.
And that had never, ever happened to me. Ever.
Okay.
So I started complications with that, and then they're like, you're gonna have to see a cardiologist and this and that, and it was just, I was all over the place.
Wow.
So the health issues just started coming like out of nowhere.
Wow.
From being super healthy to having hypertension and all this other stuff. You have to having palpitations in my heart and other stuff.
Yeah.
So I got scared. I got super scared because again, things didn't work out with my daughters that after almost 4 years of our relationship. And again, I'm by myself with all my kids.
Right.
So I remember I have an aunt. She's a pastor in Puerto Rico. She's part of the UPCI churches in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So I remember
Oh, she's a pastor out there.
She is a pastor.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so she must have been praying for you.
So she didn't know. I haven't talked to her in years.
Wow.
In years. So I actually get in contact with my cousin, her daughter, and I tell her, listen, this is happening to me. I need prayer. Please pray for me.
Wow. Okay.
So she's like, I talked to mom, this is her number. Mom told me to tell you to call her. So I call her. My aunt starts praying for me over the phone and starts talking to me. And from there, she starts talking to me about Jesus' name and baptism, a little after.
Right.
After we talk to each other a couple of times. And then I start, like, inside of me, I'm like, I need to go to a church. I have to. It was like something was pulling me. That's how I felt.
Wow.
Like pulling me. I'm like, I cannot shake this off. I have to find a church.
Wow.
So I found a Pentecostal church around the corner from my house. I was able to even walk if I wanted to.
Wow.
So I went there with all my kids.
Nice.
And just because that's how I felt. I need to find a church.
And at this time, you're not with your last child's father at this time? Or
So,
were you with him at that time?
We broke up before I got pregnant, and then after I had her, we tried.
Okay.
We were together for a couple of months, but as soon as I started going to church, really serious, he left because he didn't like the way that I was changing.
Hold on, let's marinate on that for a minute. So that can be an important part of making that transition and letting faith change your life, is understanding that the person in your life who you may be connected to for whatever reason may not be supportive of that.
Right.
And how did that make you feel, and what did you think about that?
Well, to be honest, I was so into pleasing God at that point. After going to church and services and taking Bible studies with my aunt over the phone.
Wow.
That's how I learned about the importance of Jesus' name, the importance of baptism, the right way,
Right.
oneness, all of that. That's how I really learned with her over the phone with those studies. So I was so focused in just living for God, and I'm like, I just want you, whatever you want, I'll do it.
Wow.
That I didn't care. And I remember praying to God and telling him, listen, this is what I have, just me and my kids. I'm just gonna give myself completely to you and all my kids, and just do whatever you want.
Wow, that's awesome. It's beautiful. Wow. Yeah, it was a big moment.
So I prayed and I told him, whoever comes in my way of you and me, just take them out from my life. And he was literally that same week the same person, like, no, I don't like it. He took his things and he moved out.
Woo, thank you, Jesus.
Wow. He
amazing.
told me, I don't like how you're changing. And I was changing in a good
Yes,
way.
absolutely.
I was looking more like Jesus. I wanted to do everything that pleased God. And he didn't like that. So he left.
Wow. So, one thing that I love about just all that you've shared so far, and what's a great part of your life and your story, is that you seem to have this tenacity and this desire, irrespective of your circumstances, to do what is best for you and those that God has put in your life to be responsible for. And I think that's a really admirable quality for a woman, because so many women become more concerned with just meeting the need for companionship, that everything else suffers.
Yep.
And I know it's hard, to be alone.
Yes.
And in fact, I know that you would like to be remarried someday. I know you do. But, I know that, recently, not too long ago, and since we're going down this road, and I don't want to take a whole lot more time, but I do think it's worthwhile to share that is where your heart is, and that is what you want. And recently you met someone who was in church, a decent individual, and handsome man, and all of those wonderful things that we want as women who love God and want a man who is also in love with God as well, and wants to do that walk, and everything looked good for you. And as a woman with 4 kids, growing kids, your oldest is how old now? 14. So this happened while she was still 14, right? 13, 14?
Almost 14
when this started. So it's not like it's a long time ago. You've been through a lot, been through various seasons in relationships. And the funny thing is, here this happens for you, and this door opens, and it looks like this is going to be the dream. Right? But tell us what transpired even in that dynamic. What were the things that you saw as some warning signs that maybe this isn't it?
Right. So, where do I start?
Well, I mean, you don't have to go like deeply into detail, but just kind of like what you thought made you uncomfortable. Some of the things that made you feel like, I don't know if this is good.
Well, just a couple things. He wasn't really, and it really wasn't his fault about the job. Situation. He was laid off from 2 jobs, and based on what he told me and the history of his jobs and how hard working he is, I'm like, I didn't have a problem with that. It's not your fault because of COVID. That was the reason why he got laid off. But it's just the fact that it was almost a year, and he had a lot of job opportunities, and even me trying to, on my end, trying to advocate for him on this side, to help him find other jobs, and it felt mostly like it was just too laid back.
Too laid back about it.
Too comfortable.
Okay.
And sometimes we have, I know what it's like to start from the bottom. That's the thing. I know what it's like. I've been there. So sometimes if you got laid off and you have to start with a job that's not exactly what you want, and you have to work your way up, it's fine. But I guess
that wasn't for him. Which was a warning for you that this may not be. So that's one thing, and then there was some other things.
I mean, for me, the main thing ultimately that made me, because I was the one that ended up the relationship, was...
You ended the relationship. Okay. What was that main thing?
Even when we were together in person, even he went to the church and met my church family, there was still something in my spirit that didn't sit right. It was just, I'm like, why am I not super excited, happy? We are just started dating. This is the stage where you're always like, oh, there was something in my spirit that just wasn't sitting right. And I just took it into prayer and prayed and asked God for confirmation, and I talked to the elders of the church, my pastors and other people that I trust, that I know are gonna be honest with me and have the Holy Ghost and everything. So ultimately it was just God told me no, like he was not the one for me. And I remember when I left him, the next day I was a wreck.
Hold on. Hold the phone capone. God told you no? And he was in church? And he was a Christian? And God said no? So just because he is in church does not mean that he is for you?
No.
Wow, that's an important point. And I think that that's something, like when you shared that with me even before, I was like, the fact that you would listen to God and listen, and I love the fact that you found people that you could talk to and that you would bring those people in as trusted sources to say, help guide me.
Yes.
And I think we miss that so much nowadays, especially young women, and especially women with, circumstances that everybody says should cause you to feel like you have to become what, I guess there's no better word for than desperate. So, and it's funny because, I mean, and you're doing such a wonderful job, because our job, our desire here is not to blast the individual,
right?
But we want to paint the picture correctly, so that women can hear these stories, or people hear these stories and understand what made things the way that they were, and helped, and we want to give God the glory for guiding our lives and helping us, because I know that when that breakup happened, the gentleman, was probably surprised. I mean, he was young and single, and attractive, and I'm sure that he was surprised that this beautiful woman with 4 children would break off that relationship. It just is nonsensical.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's really incredible that you had the strength to do that.
Thank you.
It's really great. So I want you to tell us again, you were talking about how you were feeling.
So, I mean, the day before I broke up with him, I was a wreck. I mean, I went into like a depression for almost that entire week, because I was so confused. And I remember telling God that you are not the author of confusion.
Right.
This is from you. I shouldn't be feeling this way. And I had such a heaviness in my spirit.
Right.
And I realized that all of his problems, I love helping people. I think you know this.
Yes, I do know you are a huge helper.
If you're cold, just take it. I don't care. I'll buy me another one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I try to help him so much. Like, I think I was carrying all of his burdens on top of already my busy life and all of my stuff, that I was weighing myself down, and I was carrying burdens that were not meant for me to carry.
Right. And listen, I just want to make the point that doesn't make the other person bad.
Right.
It just means that you learn things about yourself.
Right.
That mean that you don't want to end up in a situation that is not good for you.
For me.
And those you are responsible for. Right. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. Doesn't mean we don't love and pray for God to bless him with the right woman. That would be wonderful.
Right.
But the reality was that is a huge lesson that sometimes I think women, ignore.
Right. And there's other things. I mean, I'm a mom and my kids are like, I need to make sure that whoever comes into my life is not just my life, it's our life.
Right.
So there's certain things that he just was not fit for my family.
Right.
He might be fit for another woman, but not for my family with my children.
Right.
I already tried it, saw it. That's all I needed to see. But going back to how I was feeling, I was a wreck. I was crying. I was like so depressed. But then the next day after I finally talked to him and then I broke it off, I woke up with so much peace. Like if I had never been in a relationship. It was so, the amount of peace that I felt, I was like, this is God.
Yes, it always is.
This is God. I mean, he's the only one that gives you peace.
Yes, peace after pain.
Yes.
Peace after pain. A lot of people become bitter or angry or frustrated after a very painful, dark time.
Yes.
But I do believe, even for me in my own life, that is true. I can relate to that. That only God, at least for me, sounds like for you, was able to provide this that what the Bible talks about, peace that passes understanding. That is it. It doesn't. You don't understand it.
Right.
You've been through a painful time, but there's a peace that comes, that you know that somehow, some way, He has been involved with and sanctioned whatever has transpired, and giving you what I think is still victory, even though it doesn't look like you got what you wanted.
Right.
It's still victory.
And I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna trust you, God.
Wow.
You know, I can only see this, what I can see right here, but you can see way beyond.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know what's gonna happen in the future if I stay in this and I'm already feeling it in my spirit.
Right.
And if it's not feeling right in my spirit, and I'm so confused, I'm like, this is not them. It's not from God. So I don't know. I don't understand it. Why he cannot be the one?
Oh, I know.
Even though he had like amazing qualities,
Absolutely.
but God, after I just trusted him and just did what God told me to do without questioning him. Because that's another thing. Sometimes God tells you to do something and then you're like, but why? What? Don't worry about it. Just trust him. Be obedient.
Guilty.
And
Lots of lies.
And I've done it before too. So I'm like, this time, I need to learn how to really be obedient.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And boom, got like literally like my vision went like, and I saw so many things that were right in my face, and I just didn't.
Right. Well, that happens. That's
just
fine.
because let's just give him another chance.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Wow. So that was and that was not too long ago.
No.
And so what I think is amazing about that is you've been in your relationship with God for what, about 5 years now? 4 or 5
Less.
years? 4. Look at the progress.
Less.
I mean, the progress you have made. It just goes to show that you don't have to be a Christian or at least a disciple. We've kind of gotten to moving into that word of discipleship because we understand like there's a real active role in this faith walk. You don't have to do it a long time to become good at hearing, listening, and finding that will of God and walking in it. So I think your story is incredible. I think your life is incredible.
Thank you.
And you remind me of a dear friend of mine. I always have like very near and dear friends that are Hispanic. So I believe I was Hispanic in another life. I just do. No, not that I believe in another life, but just because I just always find these people that I connect with and admire, and they come from different cultural backgrounds. And yet there's this love and this connectivity that we share that I know is through God, and it's just through being a strong, persevering, capable woman. And you're very admirable and you're beautiful, and I believe God is going to bless you tremendously. And I'm just looking forward to being a part of that picture, whatever that's going to look like. And I just believe that our daughters will stay friends forever. And I just hope you guys who got a chance to hear this awesome story of Priscilla enjoyed it. And if there are any single wonderful men, pray about it first, but maybe she's the one for you. So thank you guys for listening to us today. And we just had a really awesome time. So just continue to pray for her, for me, for everybody. But thanks.
Thank you.